removed everything that you cannot actually see to make it a little bit easier. But hopefully this looks like the drawing that you made for your essays, where you have the axon coming in, right? Here, I'll stand back over here. The axon coming in and all the little axon terminals sitting on top of the muscle. And so it asks you to, when you look at this, you want to understand that you're looking at one cell. So this is the cell that actually would keep going in this direction and keep going in this direction. It's not an entire muscle. So that means that what you're seeing here is actually the sarcolemma, the actual membrane of the muscle cell. And this is endomysium, covering it. That usually screws people up. Inside, all this white stuff in here, that's our sarcoplasm. The endoplasmic reticulum is crappy on this model, so unless we have a better model, we might not be able to find that. So I'll have to see if we have, oh, we do, yay. Let me get the better model.
It's so good.
Same deal, we're looking at one little part of a muscle cell. Now they have the sarcoplasmic reticulum really well. It's the peach webbing in here. And then you also have to be able to find the transverse tubules. And you can see those little caviola, like you read about on the test, little indentations here that lead to the transverse tubule system, which is in blue on the model. The nuclei are purple. So here's a big nuclei, and you've seen how you typically do have many nuclei. Myofibrils. Each of these is a bundle of myofibril, and you can see the myofibrils are shown here as well, each of these being a bundle of myofibrils. And then you need to be able to find the motor end plate. The motor end plate is actually better on this one because you can see the folding of where the axon terminal would sit, but they also show it to you here. If you look to the side, you can see the folding here. They're trying to show you the motor end plate. So you're looking for sarcolemma that's folded. So this is the only place where it's folded like that. The last one is the neuromuscular junction. You guys know that's the junction between the nervous component and the muscle component. It includes, just as your drawing had to include, the axon terminal, the cleft, and the motor end plate. So the question will have to be very clearly written, and you will include like a word like junction to let you know that I'm asking about the whole thing instead of just a piece of it. Otherwise, you're going to write down something else. So this is the only one that gives students problems. Let me see what other thing. Yeah, the only other ones that I want to go over with you are the abdominal muscles, because they're kind of tricky on these guys. You guys you don't need a whole bunch, right? You just need internal obliques, external obliques, rectus abdominis, intercostals, transverse. Good. Okay. This thing takes forever to get off. So here is my little torso. And okay, so this is the pec. You don't need to know it for some reason in this class, but this is the pec. What they've done on this side is pull that off. So now what we're seeing, if you look in between the ribs, are the intercostals. Inter meaning between, costal meaning rib. So these are the muscles that run between the ribs. We have two layers of muscles. The external would be the one that you see on this side. If we flip it over and look at the banding of muscle between the ribs on this side, this is internal intercostals. Okay? Now, we also have our 6 or our 8 pack here in the middle. This is the rectus abdominis. It only extends from here through the midline of the body, the linea alba, and over to this side. So it's a small band of muscle that runs in the middle of the body. Now we have, to connect to all the way back to the back, we have the obliques, which run along the side and underneath the rectus abdominis. The obliques, what they've done is they've shown you the external on one side and the internal on the other. So how can you tell whether it's internal or external? The easiest way is to remember that the external intercostals will will run the same direction if you were putting, as if you were putting your hands in your pockets. They're going to run. So here's my hand, it's going in my pocket. They're going to run in this direction. So when you look at that, you can see that only this side runs like I'm putting my hands in my pocket. This side runs up and towards the midline of my body. Okay, so this is internal, this is external. So get good at noticing that. If that's really hard for you, there is another trick. If you look at the side of the body and you see 3 layers of muscle, the outer one must be outer one, must be external oblique. If you look and only see 2 layers of muscle shown, the outer one has to be the internal oblique. So there's 2 different ways of seeing that. Now if we completely flip them over again, and we notice, Angel can probably see this best, if the muscle starts to run this way in the body, it runs transverse across the body. That is the transverse abdominis. Okay? So the names, at least the abdominal area, are trying to help you locate what it is. There is a help to remember the tire, which tells you transverse abdominis, internal, rectus, and external. That's in your notes. But note that it doesn't give them in order. So some people will say that to think of them in order say like tuition is ever rising, which is so true, right? It gives them to you actually in the correct order from the most deep to the most superficial. Those are really the only ones that give people problems. Let me look and make sure there's nothing else. Oh, the only ones, let me look at the lower leg, the posterior portion of the leg with you guys, because this is one thing that is hard on our models, and that is, hold on, there it is, semitendinosus. I just need this because I don't want to tell you things that you don't need to know. Yeah.
We need to know all the muscles.
You need to know all the muscles that are listed, yeah, and their action. So everything through rectus femoris is on the front of the leg, and that's usually very straightforward, and no one has problems with that, so I'll let you go over that on your own. But everything from bicep femoris down to the gastrocnemius is located on the posterior portion, and that's what does tend to give people more problems. So I just wanted to go through those. The easiest one is the gastroc. The gastrocnemius is this guy down here. It's your calf muscle. Okay? We don't need to know anything else on the lower part of the leg. So it's this guy. Okay, so runners get really big, both sides, yeah. It's a 2-headed muscle, it's a nice big muscle. And then we have the 3 muscles that make up the hamstring, which are the bicep femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. The bicep femoris is always going to be on the lateral side, so it'll always be out to the side of the body. The semitendinosus sits on top of the membranosus, so this is tendinosus, and this guy, which kind of hangs out the side, this is all we see of membranosus in here. Okay? So those are the ones that are typically the most difficult, but if you remember that your bicep is always out to the side, and tendinosus is on top of membranosus, it makes it a little bit easier. So I always have students